This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It's sponsored by Independent Bank. And Katy, Huckle is here with me, and we love talking about live theater. We do. You know, the Footlighters are with us so often.
I know it.
And we're getting up to the United Way Murder Mystery Day, aren't we?
We are, and it's one of my favorite days of the year. The community comes together and raises a whole bunch of money for United Way. And the cast of this year's murder mystery is an A-team. I'm telling you, Rich, this is a talented group of folks, and we have some of them with us in the studio today. But first, I want to just give a shout out to our author, our playwright, Amy Peltier is with us. And Amy is a wildly talented lady, and she's co-directing this year. Is that correct?
I am. I'm very excited to add that to my repertoire.
Oh, my gosh. So I have to tell you this, Rich. We were in rehearsal the other day, and we had a cast member missing. You know, these are busy folks, right? And so Amy stood in and read through the lines and did a great job. And, of course, she wrote the lines, so she knows them, you know. And as she's walking off the stage, she says, and here's my happy exit off of the stage, meaning that's not where, is that true? That's not where you want to be?
That is very true. I like to be the puppet master. I don't want to be up there myself.
Okay.
So I'm always sad when somebody is missing. But so far, we've had 2 rehearsals, and I've had to read lines both times.
I know, and you do such a good job. So I asked her after rehearsal, I said, do we sound right? Is this what you imagined? And can you share with everybody what you do before you hit print on your script? You do what?
I read the entire thing by myself in my office, and I do all of the different voices. So I'm sure I sound like, just a crazy person, but that is the last thing I do. Yes, exactly, Sybil.
Oh, gee.
Going back and forth between the different voices. So you'd think that would be a great time to catch the typos, too, but I always find that it's not. I find a lot of typos later.
Jay, there are no typos.
I would pay money for this recording. How does this not exist? What's going on here?
It's true.
And as her husband, I've never heard her do this before in my life. I would die to hear that.
Yeah,
So-
I keep that to myself. So.
But you have a twin.
I do.
And my understanding is you sometimes bounce things when you're writing. You sometimes bounce things off her?
I do. I send her different lines, and I say, is this too offensive? Is this funny? That sort of thing. And she sees the entire script before I send it off to Sally.
No.
And so does Brandon. He also reads the entire thing to give me some feedback.
Do you really get edited, though?
Do I what?
Do you get edited? Does anyone ever tell you?
Yes, definitely.
Really?
Yeah, they'll tell me if it's not funny. If the joke's not landing, they'll definitely tell me. And Brandon was actually incredibly helpful this year because we have a song, and he helped me write the song. So that was wonderful because I was pretty stuck on it. And
I'm sorry to laugh, but Rich, this song, I'm telling you, it's hard for me to keep a straight face, and it's hard for me to keep a straight face in rehearsals because it is spectacularly funny. Is that true, Jay?
It's fantastic. I had a quick question, though, Amy. Is it still true that you let Brandon write one joke?
Well, he wrote more than one this year because he helped with that song. So he should have gotten a co-writing credit, really. But tragically, the posters are already printed. So
It is tragic, isn't it, Rich? So we have Dr. Brandon Peltier with us, we have Jay Simon with us, and we have Andy Ulrich, who is our new United Way director, with us in the studio. So I want to move from Amy to some of our characters here, and these are folks that we call them frequent flyers in the show. Dr. Peltier, I know Sally will get in trouble with Sal if we give away too much, but can you do just a little bit of your voice without saying who you are, just a little bit?
I think it's right, and I'm who I am.
I'm not kidding. That is how he sounds. Okay.
Nailed it.
And Jay, could we do just a little bit of your voice?
Well, I don't know if anybody really wants to hear what I got to do for this show, Katy. It's just, come on, it's all right, I suppose.
Perfect. So the name of the play is Death by Foul Play. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the name of the play and this year's plot?
Sure. It is based on a kind of a Broadway show. So that's the overall theme is Broadway. And I came up with that idea because with Pat Goggin retiring from the United Way this year, he's he's going to be doing other things and staying in town, and that's wonderful. But it made me just start to think about Pat and Sally and how grateful I am to them for giving me this opportunity. And I thought, I wanted to do kind of a love letter to them through making it a Broadway show, because they're just insanely talented, and we're so lucky to have them. And so that's kind of how the theme came about.
I've got the chills just hearing that. They were supposed to be with us today, but they had surprise visitors this morning.
Right.
Stop by. So, again, hats off to Pat and Sally and the amazing legacy that they are leaving to all of us, with retiring. Andy, welcome to your new role as United Way director. What have you learned about the play so far?
Well, first, just my impression was that this is just it's really a truly funny play. I'm not sure what I expected kind of going into it. And then when I was really fortunate to sit in the read through to this thing, and I mean, it was hard to not be disruptive because, like belly laughs, and I was just thinking, this is really a top quality a play. I think it could, put itself with anything that I've seen in our area, in the last couple of years. And it's truly entertaining. It's just super funny. It's great.
Right. From a financial perspective, what's the top goal? If the world was a perfect place, United Way would raise how much money on March 5?
Well, it depends some on our sponsorship that we're still, getting, but we can raise, $25,000, possibly, by doing this. We have about 400 people there, possibly, and
wow.
Really solid sponsors. And so, to be honest, we don't, talk a whole lot, when we go there about the United Way, but behind all these amazing actors that are volunteering, they're taking a lot of their time to do this every Sunday. They're, practicing this play. There really is a good cause for it, and we fund about 15 nonprofits in our area, and they're extremely grateful for that. So it's funny, it's going to be really entertaining, but there is a reason for doing all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The annual goal and the annual fundraiser, you do your big fundraiser, payroll deduction, your annual campaign. Is this your largest fundraiser outside of that?
This is the largest fundraiser outside of that, and really almost for Cadillac. I mean, Dancing with the Y-Stars, I think, is slightly bigger, possibly the Rotary auction, but this is definitely a very classy event. People dress up. It's a lot of fun, even for the audience. It's definitely the marquee kind of event for fundraisers and nonprofits in our area.
Well, awesome. Amy, the guests that are coming, if you were going to tell them in your mind, your vision, your Broadway vision, women, we like to dress up. We do. And it's been a while since we've been able to dress up and all be together and this kind of thing. If a couple was wondering what they should wear, what would you tell them to the event?
I would say there's always a really wide range of, from dressy to kind of semi-formal. I would say feel free to dress up as a character from your favorite Broadway show. Feel free to it's been so long since we've really all been able to get together. Mm-hmm. Feel free to just, really go to town and, go all out. And if you want to dress like the Phantom of the Opera, then you certainly could do that. And but just have fun with it. I think we just all have a lot of fun that night. We really are going to pull out all the stops on the costuming this year.
That's true.
Yes. So I think you should just come and have fun and wear what makes you feel like you're going to have a great time.
Absolutely. So Jay, I don't know if you know this, but Sally says, that should be something like, well, what Sally says.
Feels like a column in a newspaper.
Thank you. That's what I mean, like Helpful Eloise, Sally says. But that you'll know if you've done a good job as an actor if a whole bunch of people think you're the murderer.
Huh. Yes.
Can you speak to that theory?
Yeah, that's excellent. So Amy does a great job. The couple of times I attended when I wasn't part of the show, I was always way off. And I think part of the reason is I'm watching to be entertained. I wasn't necessarily watching and looking for clues when I attended previously, which is fine, right? But there are definitely people that come to these things and they are laser focused on what you're doing as an actor, and they're looking for every tiny little clue. And Sally's absolutely right. That's part of our job, not only to entertain, but to mislead, which sounds terrible, but you're trying to kind of give them a reason to think, you could be the murderer, or so-and-so could be the murderer, right?
Right.
And you do that in a variety of different ways, and it always kind of depends on that particular show's theme and stuff. I'm going to be honest, I think this year could be pretty tough. I really do.
Okay,
because
good.
I think there are a number of these characters that you might buy as having the motive and having the opportunity to be the murderer, that I think people are going to be challenged by it. So yeah, I'm throwing that gauntlet
There
down.
definitely are clues built in
Absolutely.
though, to the script.
There absolutely
in
are.
the costuming, into what the actors are doing. There, and so you can figure it out.
Oh
definitely.
yeah, you can. Amy doesn't make it impossible, but she does make it a challenge, and I think this one's going to be fun for people.
And I will say one of the fun parts about being the actor in this is in between the set pieces, we are out and talking with the audience, and the audience is asking us all sorts of questions, and you'll see them writing down things and asking for different clues. And so it's very fun to have that off script interactions with the audience as well. It makes it much more open and more like you're participating in the show than just watching it.
And you've got to be able to think off the cuff in this, because you get asked all sorts of impromptu things that maybe you haven't considered. Where was your character here? And how do you feel about this? And what about jealousy? Such and so. And one rule, and I'm nodding at Brandon, in a murder mystery, and specifically when you report to Sally, you cannot lie. You cannot lie to any of the questions. So if you're asked, let's say you were the murderer, and you were asked directly if you were the murderer, you've got to go off on a rabbit trail. But you can't lie. Is that so?
Well, what you do is you wink and you walk away.
So look for the wink. Look for the wink.
Well, you could have told me that before now, Jay.
Sorry,
that's a good trick.
If they start asking questions that either A, you don't have an answer for, or B, you don't want to give, that's when you just give the wink and nod and give them a little sly grin, and then just walk away from them.
Okay, so I didn't know that was your party trick, because my party trick is, hey, such and so, they have a question for me, and I can't quite remember. And I bring over another cast member, put them on the spot, put them in the hot seat. So, and when we have rookies, this year we don't have any rookies, but when we have rookies, sometimes you just see their faces, they're like deer in a headlight, like.
Make a note, Brandon. Ignore Katy when she calls you over to a table.
Yeah, beware, you're in trouble. So I have to tease Brandon a little bit, because his personality is this big, this big of a personality. And so in rehearsals, and especially as we gear up in dress rehearsals, Sally will say, okay, everybody, sparkle, 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 shine, shine, shine. And too much is not enough. Except, Brandon, you're good. Can you speak to that?
And that is a goal every year. If I can hit the turn it down lever, that means that I feel pretty good about things. So, and that's part of the fun of it as well, as you're playing to such a large audience, and with the theater in the round, you want to make sure that you are interacting and forming a bond with everybody in the place. And
Right.
so you can't be too big. And that's one of the fun things about a Broadway theme in particular, is in Broadway you really can't be too big. And so there are a couple of times when different people do show tunes and things, and they have to be huge, and Katy might be one of those. And so seeing that and seeing the audience's reaction to that is going to be fantastic.
I'm always fascinated by I help out at the radio station with Rich, and so audio is a big deal to me. And I've always been fascinated by the placement of microphones for theater productions. They have the style that you can feed through a wig and have it on the top of your forehead, and it'll still pick your voice up, right? You can have it at the side of your head by your cheekbones. They'll have the ones where the little arm comes out by your face and stuff. Brandon is the only actor I've met since I got into theater who has to put his mic down by his chest level in order to ensure that he doesn't blow anything out.
I will be completely and totally honest. When Brandon talks, I have to turn the microphone volume down.
And he's just being conversational right now. This is calm Brandon. This is nothing, but it's just his his baritone is just, it carries.
It does, and his singing is quite spectacular.
It is.
He really is a great singer.
I know it. I know it. I love it. So I look at this group of people, and Rich, there's another Sally says rule: no ad-libbing, nothing impromptu. She doesn't like it; makes her nervous. And see, especially with Elmore, that's just poking the bear. See, that's just asking for it. The man's an attorney. You know what I'm saying? And so I always have to just be prepared for what he's going to do, because I am actually a rule follower. And if Sally says no ad-libbing, yes, she's one of my best friends. I don't want to tangle with her. I will tell you what he did to me one time. I was dead, as in dead, and laying on the floor. And there was a real hearse in the room. Mark Holchip, this is before we had the blessing of Amy Peltier. So it was some script we bought from Europe, whatever. And it was a wake. And so there was a hearse, which creeped everyone out, right? And I was to be put in the hearse, but we hadn't rehearsed that part. And Melissa Kendall, who's also in the show, has these superstitions, you know. And so when they put me in the hearse, there was this ghost spray in there. And I realized once they put me in there for the rest of the show, and I died early, that there were no doors to get out. So like if I would have, because people who are in a hearse in the back, they don't need, egress. So I'm laying there going, I can't get out. And I look over and there's this little bottle of ghost spray. And I was like, all over in the back of the hearse. But about Jason. So Jason was the funeral director. He was the what do you call the mortician, if you know. And so he came to get me, and he called someone up from the audience, and it was Scott Koenig. And could you help me get this dead body? And now Sally said, when you're dead, you don't breathe. The blood didn't come. She sprayed me in ketchup. It was a beautiful gown. Say goodbye to that. So I'm laying on the ground covered in ketchup. And Jason comes over as rehearsed, and he's got, his trench coat on and his hat, and he's the undertaker, mortician, and goes to pick me up. And he stops and looks at the crowd, and he says, folks, she's a lot heavier than she looks. and I'm supposed to be dead. And as he puts me in the hearse, I say, you're going to need a hearse. And then he shut the door, and that was that. But that's what I mean about ad-libbing. I mean, you throw your characters off. What would you say about that, Jay?
Brandon, is ad-libbing the same as paraphrasing?
I would say they're completely different. Paraphrasing, you're getting where you're going. Ad-libbing, you're adding something else. I am a master of the paraphrase. And I get there at the end, and it creates a little bit more adventure for those that work with me. My skill set is slow and loud, and memorization's not necessarily part of that.
Adventure is an interesting choice of words in terms of your fellow actors.
And it could be why Amy doesn't give me many lines in this one, and a lot of them are just muttered.
Or you actually gave one of your lines when she asked you to speak in your accent.
Exactly.
For the show. That's literally one of your lines. That's easy to memorize.
Exactly. And so Amy plays to my strengths.
I want to get there in a minute. But, Rich, just so you know, in theater, and this isn't the best way to memorize, but sometimes you memorize and know when to pick up because you remember the last word.
Sure.
Okay? So if they change the last word, you're like, at least me. I don't know. So let's talk about that, Amy. When you cast Brandon in a show. And I will say, he does not feel entitled to a role, this man. And they live together and have for years. But is that so?
That is true.
It's true.
It is always a pleasant surprise when she gives me one.
Oh, I thought you were answering if you've lived together for a while.
But can you talk about casting your husband and what that looks like?
Well, Sally and I always get together and kind of cast together. So we go through the characters and just throw ideas back and forth with each other, which actor we think would do the best with which character. And we did that before I was done with the script this year. Usually it's after, but I'm habitually late turning it in, and I really outdid myself this year. So
in that category? Oh,
right,
I see.
right. So we already knew the parts that we had and went through, and so, it's such a great group of actors that we have such a big talent pool here. There's always far more people that we could use because we're so lucky to have so many great actors here. Yeah. So it's just an embarrassment of riches, really, trying to cast it. So we just do. I do try to play to people's strengths, and because I wanted it to be a Broadway show, I knew I needed some strong singers, and and we have that, so it's great.
Can we talk about Lynn Montag for a minute? Lynn hangs in the backdrop. She's our reader. So when rehearsal gets serious and lines are supposed to be memorized, we don't want to stop the show if an actor doesn't know their lines. But we also don't want to embarrass the actor. So if you're at a dress rehearsal or getting close and you're supposed to be off book and you don't know your line, you say line. And Lynn knows exactly where you are in the script. She's also our costumer.
Yes.
And let's talk about that for a minute. Amy, do you and Lynn and Sally get together and say, I think this person should look like X?
I never have in the past, but
Okay.
since I'm helping with the directing this year, we have. But Lynn she really is going to have her work cut out for her this year because we have a lot of changes and a lot of elaborate costumes. But I know she's up for it. She's just really excited about it. And just her enthusiasm and her skill at putting the costumes together, I think it's just amazing. Really adds to it.
Well, and it's funny because her personal jewelry collection.
Yes.
And one of my costumes involves, heavy rhinestones, type of a glitterati look. And I looked at her and she goes, "Come on, I got you." So she might have quite a jewelry closet,
Right.
that kind of thing. So
I'm jealous. I don't think I get to be blinged out. What about you, Brandon?
No, definitely no bling.
Andy, ticket sales, how's it going?
It's going good. They're going at a brisk pace. Tickets are $75, and you can buy them on our website or call in to United Way. And people are buying tables. It's really good.
Are we going to sell out?
I sure hope so. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That's everybody's wish, and that's typically what happens.
And what's capacity at Fox?
Well, depending on the year, we usually have between 350 and 400. Okay. So there's always a kind of a musical chairs at the end where we're kind of adding some chairs, because a lot of people want to get last minute tickets. But yeah, you probably want to get them early to make sure that you're in there. Because like for catering or something, there are some limits on what we can do.
Right, and and fire code and all that. Ronnie Urbanavich and his group do such a good job. We sort of take over Fox Motors, if you will. And so especially the couple of days that we're in rehearsals before the play, they're trying to sell cars out of there. And we're, all the divas are we're overrunning the dealership. But his team now is used to us being around, and they're very accommodating. And of course, they step up with a big check for us, don't they, Andy?
Yeah, and could I just say, in general with them, they are just super supportive. I'm really impressed with them. They have a great team, and they're to be honest, there are few spaces that could do this physically in the Cadillac area to have a theater in the round. And I'm really happy that they allow us to kind of get in there. We have all these people going in and like practicing, on Sundays and stuff there, and they're really supportive, and it's just a unique partnership. I'm really thankful for Fox Motors.
How does that space lend itself to this kind of experience? Obviously, it's not an auditorium. It's not your standard theater. This has been done here many, many times, this particular event. So how does the space lend itself to a show like this?
You cast people like Brandon who are really loud. That's pretty much the bottom line.
They always tell you in an interview school to ask a question that doesn't require a short answer like that. So I boxed myself into that one. Seriously, though.
No, but Jay.
So the theater in the round experience is a neat thing. I think the closest, for me personally, since I got involved with Footlighters back in 2017, I think the closest we've come is when we did the Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime at the Elks, which wasn't in the round, or even, what do they call the one where it's three sides? There's another name for that. But the audience was very close, and it was a very intimate setting type thing. And that's kind of what this is. Pat's got his little chalk thing to draw the circle for exactly where the stage, quote unquote, is going to be. And the tables are right up to that edge. And so as we're blocking this, figuring out where we're going to move and where we're going to end up. And Sally always has this very well, I don't know if you helped her with it this year at all, Amy, but she's always got it very spelled out to the point where if you walk to one side of the church, she'll stop. I need you to walk over there. Okay. And then when you walk over, you write that down in your script and you walk over there. But as you're acting, you've got people right in front of you. If you get to the edge of the circle, there are people at their tables looking right at you. And part of the fun and the impromptu-ness of this whole thing is to interact with them to a certain extent, whether that's just a look or, Brandon, have you ever tried to steal a drink mid-show at a?
Hypothetically, yes. As part of my character, I have done that. Yes.
Been forced.
So it's
Yeah, right.
so it's a neat. From an acoustic standpoint, a sound standpoint, it works well. I've never had anybody say they couldn't hear from the back of the way it is, but because it's all the way around it, it doesn't have to go all that deep, and everybody gets, I think, a really nice view of it. They can hear everything that's happening with it, and I think it's the couple times I've been there where I wasn't in it, it was a neat experience.
Well, and we really do bring in like a bunch of sound equipment,
Oh, yeah.
hang lights, hang speakers and stuff like that, and it's a pretty elaborate setup.
Yeah.
Detective Phil Standish, Dan Alto. So these outrageous people, these characters that Amy develops, that we get to breathe life into. There's one that comes back every year, the same guy. And, it's somewhat unfair, Rich, because there's this hero worship of Dan Alto in the community. When he comes out, the show stops.
It's rightfully earned.
I agree. Can we talk about where this guy came from? Phil.
Well, this will be his 7th outing as Detective Standish, and you mentioned ad-libbing earlier. He is the one actor who is actually encouraged to ad-lib. I went up to him at the last rehearsal and I said, "Now you know you can change things up, right? You don't have to say that as written if you think it's funnier this way." And so I feel like he really is Phil Standish.
Okay, that's funny.
It's Dan Alto being Dan Alto.
Yeah, right. It writes itself, really.
Yeah.
It writes itself, yeah. It's funny because it's sort of pandemonium, this craziness, chaos that Amy creates. And that stops when Phil enters the room. And he is law enforcement, right?
Right. So, yeah.
And so everybody has to shape up when Phil, and including the audience. And I think they almost like to be chastised. I think they almost like to be admonished. What do you think about that, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. Again, to be yelled at by Phil Standish is a badge of honor for all of us, and I get to be called the same name every show that Amy writes, and I'm not going to say it on radio.
I think I get to be called that this year too. I was so excited.
Fantastic.
I
See,
know.
it is a badge of honor for all of us.
It is.
Phil-
It's well deserved. He just, like you said, he stops everything. And I can't imagine anybody else doing it at this point, frankly.
And the great thing is that Dan was an accident. I mean, Amy wrote the play with a kind of generic detective, and Dan just took it and ran with it and made it his own. And so it became the recurring character just because he did it so very well.
Poor man has never been able to enjoy a meal in peace. Something always happens.
Well, and I think it's a little bit, typecast just a little bit, because if you know Dan, he's an incredible athlete. He really does command attention. But I wonder what it's like to be Beth in the weeks prior to the show at their house, bossing everybody around.
Yeah, she's a lucky woman to.
Yeah, it's like herding cattle.
Yes.
Rehearsals are a little bit like herding cattle, too.
Right.
Who haven't we talked about in the cast yet?
Well, Melissa.
we covered everybody?
Melissa Kendall plays an important role, too. There's, everybody likes, and I can't say too much, but everybody likes girls that fight. And I will tell you, there's some serious girl fights. So you can.
So we brought up Jason Elmore.
Yeah.
Shayna Biller is in the show.
Kelly Simon.
Kelly Simons. Joe Bauman is... I think people will find that character to be interesting,
hilarious.
I agree.
considering what they've seen of Joe in Footlighter's shows.
And one of our more memorable actors is Dan Smith,
Yes.
who moved away from the community within the last 2 years, but he is actually coming back
Awesome.
to have a role in this show. So we're so excited to all get to see him and to have him in the show again.
We sure are. And I'll tell you, Amy, in the community, as I visit with people out and about, and even in business, I've had at least 3 people say, "Will Dan Smith ever come back?" And this is the year, that we got to say, yes. Dan's going to be with us.
Yes.
We actually Zoom him. He's in New Hampshire running the YMCA there. And we Zoom him in for rehearsals, and he's incredibly prepared. And it's just a funny thing about Dan. When he moved away, we're close friends, and he said, I I really miss Cadillac and I miss my friends. But the event that I miss the most is the murder mystery. You know, he was busy with a huge family crisis with Hafrani, busy running the Y and fundraising, and this was a chance. He has a theater degree. Dan does. And so this was a chance to dust off that and scratch an itch, you
Right.
know, with his theater. So we're excited too. Yeah,
Yes.
good point about Dan. That's exciting.
So let's circle back around, talk
Okay.
about when, where, and how they can get tickets, because this sounds like something people will not want to miss.
So March 5th at Fox Motors, you can buy your tickets on our website or call in to the United Way. You can dress up, but you can dress up like your favorite star of stage or screen. If you want to dress up like Marilyn Monroe, you can do that. You know, it seems like we're getting a lot of calls at actually the United Way. What am I dressing up as? Because you know, a lot of really because you know, before it's like, oh, I got to wear a derby hat or something. People
There's a theme every
really
year.
lean into it, which is, you know, it kind of makes it part of the pageantry, just plain fun. You know, especially in these dark, wintry times. It's a good excuse to have a good time.
Right, right.
And on March 5th, that's almost the gateway to spring, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be the kickoff. How about that?
Yeah, I like it. All right.
Again, I need to thank Fox Motors, Rich. The check that those boys write is substantial, and then it helps us go out to other sponsors too and say this is a proven winner in the community. We promise we're going to bring a lot of people in, and as Sally tells the cast, at least once during rehearsals, people are spending a lot of money to be here. Give them a great show, and I promise we will.
All right. Wrap us up, Katy.
So please join us for this year's 2022 murder mystery. It's called Death by Foul Play, written by the extraordinary, talented Amy Peltier.
Thank you to our guests, Andy Ulrich, Jay Simon, the Peltiers, our co-host Katy Huckle, and next week, more chat, more local information, lots of fun on Cadillac Unscripted, sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY.